Hey friends, I have finally got a little time to record again, and right on cue, Lil Frodo is being the goat as usual and pulled out a new batch over on Reddit between Gypsy Rose and Melissa Moore of the prison emails. Lil Frodo says that these are from Ryan's timeline, so that tells us they're between like late 2020 until she got out of December 2023. For anyone popping in new, these are prison emails of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. They were obtained legally through the Freedom of Information Act and the Missouri Sunshine Law. All prisoner communications are subject to Freedom of Information Act requests. Let's get into them, friends. Okay, this first one is outbound from Gypsy and it says, "Hey, blank. I would need to talk to you when you have time. It is somewhat important. I would talk about handling the book and podcast earnings without my parents being involved. I do not feel comfortable involving them anymore. Whatever the studio has left to send for my documentary is still fine, but I no longer wish to entrust my finances with them for future projects. I'll explain on the phone. Thank you." And then outbound from Gypsy again. "I'm giving power of attorney to blank to handle financial business and be able to sign in my place beginning March 15th and ending December 28th. So this one must be in 2023, or she would have included a year, I would think. Don't y'all, friends? Yeah, this was during that time period. She was getting irritated at Pimp Juice and Christy, and probably also when they were talking about divorcing again, one of the multiple times. Now, this one is interesting, friends. Listen here. Outbound from Gypsy. "Got the other pics. Blank doesn't look like himself, but he is the only person I know who looks different based on angles in every picture I have of him. I held it up to photos that I had the picture girl and visiting take of him based on select angles, and the two look totally different. Because he is bigger, shots need to come from above, not lower head on. But it is what it is. It just isn't the best likeness, is all. Are there better, more flattering shots?"
No, I had a baby. Yeah. Yeah, see these? These are my ribs. Okay? Okay? But it's all about angles. So if you want to look thinner in your pictures, so when you're doing pictures, put your leg out like that. Okay? Arch your back a little bit. Okay? And then you take your picture. Always take it from above. It'll make your chin and everything look thinner. Okay?
So, yeah, friends, clearly she does know people look different at every angle. I don't know why she lies. Then we got a great big outbound from Gypsy where she is mad because she's read over her book, this book, or not this book. We're not reading the book right now. Duh. She's read over parts of the book and released and My Time to Stand are pretty much the same. It's just My Time to Stand is longer and has more in it. But anyway, she's read over the book and she's irritated about stuff, friends. And this completely contradicts her narrative that she never even read the book. That's why there's so many errors in it. Okay, outbound from Gypsy. "Hi, Blank. Blank read the book proposal to me, and what I found is, without trying to be insulting, that the overall framework of words was bare boned. It reminded me of listening to Forrest Gump and made me cringe. It was your very basic wording. I often use more intellectual words, saying, for example, instead of saying, 'People said my mom poisoned my step grandma blank,' I would have said, 'It was speculated that my mother had poisoned my step grandmother blank with Roundup.' Blank also uses mom, and I actually rarely call my mother mom. I refer to her as mother because I now call blank mom. Also, there were consistent repetitive words that should have used commas where the repetitive ands were placed. The story read very factual, however, lacked emotion, texture, and to a degree, intelligence. One thing everyone comments on when living with my mother is how articulate I am with words, and that did not translate with the way this reads. Notes. Number one, my mother did not work at a hospital after I was born. She took a job at a bar called PJ's when I was toddler age and later took odd jobs such as photo restoration on her computer. Number two, it reads more than once that I had no participation in Mommy Dead and Dearest, but I did participate in the HBO documentary Mommy Dead and Dearest. However, I did not have financial compensation. And it was not a docuseries, it was a single documentary. I thought they did get paid for that, friends. I think she's twisting shit up there by, saying I did not get financial compensation, maybe because Rod and Christy have the financial compensation at trust fund. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I just thought she did. Let me know in the comments, friends, if y'all know. Anyway, number three. In the beginning, it read, "My childhood was great, but then I got sick." The next paragraph reads, "I had X amount of surgical procedures at 11 months old." That is contradictory to the beginning paragraph. From birth, my mother claimed I was sick. However, as a child, I at least was allowed to be more social with my mother's side and have some good memories of it as a child. I would not say great, though. Number four, Blink and I did not mutually break up. He left me devastatingly broken-hearted. I want readers to feel the strength of the pain that I felt after all I had gone through. I thought I had went through it to get to this person who loved me, and he let me down just like everyone else in my life. Blank jotted down other notes of errors in grammar and proper English and pretty much the same notes. For a proposal, it is okay, but I do not want Blank to write the manuscript. I just can't see a whole book of this shit. It is all facts and no heart. Nothing tugged at me to make me feel anything but bored and depressed. Outbound from Gypsy. I emailed Blank with some thoughts. It might offend her, but it is my story and I am not settling. Then it looks like Melissa forwarded something to Gypsy that she sent to someone about Gypsy's email. It says, "Letter to Blank copy. Here's what I sent to Blank to read to you and get your notes on. Hi, Blank and Blank. Thank you for sending the proposal. I had forwarded it immediately to Gypsy before my own review of it and got a quick response from her that same day. She was deeply offended. During my own review, I dissected the proposal to understand why she had such a negative reaction. First, it was mainly due to lack of her own voice missing in the proposal. While the writing is factual, it lacks her tone and reduces her vocabulary to an elementary grade level. We assume the lack of voice comes from her interviews not being directly pulled and injected into the writing. Second to voice, there aren't any emotional moments we enter into through the writing. There's a play by play of timeline events, again factual, just not taking the opportunity to have us experience a moment in time that Gypsy lived through so we know what she felt. The same chapter is where this really could have shined. For example, there's a memory Gypsy has of sleeping over at her cousin's home as a child, and she is jumping on the bed, and when her aunt walks in, immediately she drops to the bed in tremendous fear and freezes, knowing she was caught using her legs. Now being caught, hell will be paid when her mother discovers her lapse in the act. There are many memories Gypsy has of the transition of being healthy while her mother starts to train her to be a sick child that could be used for the sample chapter. Instead, it opens with facts lined up of her date of birth and nickname, nothing an editor couldn't Google. The same chapter is a chance to show that this book just truly has never before heard stories that only she could tell. Third, and least of the issues, the overview isn't in first person. Here's an opportunity to address the fact that while there are many documentaries and even a TV scripted series, none of them tell her true story. Her story has been adapted and stolen. Something along the lines of, while millions of people watched the act, I sat in my prison cell with no access to Hulu. To this day, I haven't been able to watch the series. People were watching a show starring me. I had no involvement. People now are thinking they know me, but they don't know point one, point two, point three. This could also be an open letter to the editor stating what people don't know or the mistruths people have heard of her. Now, having addressed all the concerns, we feel it needs a complete rewrite to add her voice and to write a sample chapter that takes us into a moment of her life. I can send all of her notes of changes, but at this point, Gypsy has lost faith. I propose that we cut out our losses and end the agreement here. Best. Oh man. I'm guessing whoever was trying to write that was probably trying to stick with a feel that would actually be consistent with Gypsy's story that she wasn't educated and she was kept as a child. And maybe avoid a bunch of memory stories that were inconsistent. And we have outbound from Gypsy. Hi, Blank. I was talking with Blank and we were coming up with ideas for my first year out of prison and what are some plans we hope to do in that time span. We were thinking of things that could potentially be highlights if we enter into a second phase of our project. Here's a list of what we are thinking. Highlights: release day, cosmetic work, wedding redo, honeymoon vacation, first baby. Oh, first baby. Sounds like maybe she did initially intend to have a baby on camera. What do y'all think, friends? Okay, then she says fillers, getting first tattoo, job interviews, book tour, sitting down with parents and asking one on one questions about the past, facing fears going back to 2103 West Volunteer Way and digging up Hex Jar. That's so funny. I do not think that the people who live there are going to let Gypsy come roam around. They don't like sightseers or anything to do with that coming around. That's so funny. Yeah, it sounds like if she had a baby with Ryan, she was totally going to put it on camera. They were going to show that shit Also, didn't Ryan mention in their disaster dinner that a wedding redo was something they had planned on? "Why don't we go ahead and do it?" And she was like, she already knew she was divorcing him, obviously. She's probably already banging Keen. Looks like Melissa replies and says, Phase two. These are great ideas. However, we need to start with present day August 1st. We have to show that there are things happening while in prison and prep for your release, such as 1. Difficult conversations with Blank's family. How is it going to be when you're released? 2. Blank's job. How will your release affect his employment? 3. Discovering what you can and can't do post prison. Will getting a job be harder, etc.? Can you get a passport? Or there are extra things that you now have to do? 4. Prep for leaving people you have come to love behind in prison. From now to August, it is a little bit of a slower period of time, but we need a few beats to make sure it sets up the action. I think Melissa's trying to rein her back a little bit. She's like, Gypsy, you're jumping the gun. Then this is outbound from Gypsy. She says, there are some unknowns at play here. I don't have anything really leading up to my release. The prison doesn't require us to take any classes for release. There is no follow up hearing or evaluation. It's just a waiting game. I do not foresee me having any conversations with my mother's side of the family. My cousin Blink made it known that they will not appreciate me speaking about the Molestation by my grandfather, so I am guessing that my aunts Blink and Blink will hold back from speaking to me until the dust settles. Blank's employer is already aware of our marriage and made it a point to have a Zoom call with the higher ups to make them aware of our situation. What is concerning is will there be any negative repercussions to the documentary? Gypsy doesn't sound too happy about Melissa's suggestions. Friends, do y'all get that feeling? Oh my God, friends, listen to this. Inbound from Melissa. I found a lot of resources for you so you can see that you'll be able to be a successful and independent person. Grants, there's something by the government that will pay for your apartment, there's food stamps. This is all to help you start your new life, and you won't need them long term. Here's an example of what you could do on parole. 1. Apply to community college. Pell Grant will pay 100% of the college. 2. Apply for HUD. They will pay for your apartment. 3. Apply for a part-time job, $17 an hour at Walmart as a stalker associate. There's lots of other jobs too at different places. 3. Apply she did two number 3s in the list. 3. Apply for state food stamps and healthcare. The state healthcare pays 100% dental and medical plus mental health. 4. Open a Capital One bank account. Use the 360 savings. 5. Open a secured credit card. This will build your credit fast. Everyone is accepted. Use no more than 30% of the card limit at a time, as credit cards will ding you if you max out cards or use more than 50% of card limit. 6. Apply for a local driving school. They can let you use driving simulators to practice before you have a car to use. Then, after applying for these things, look for apartments or housing. You have enough for a deposit and first month's rent, which is needed. Right now, you'll need to pull your credit and see what's on there. Your credit is what's pulled when getting a place. That is very, very interesting because I remember whenever Gypsy was pregnant and living with Rod and Christy before Keen had moved to Louisiana, there were rumors that Christy had suggested to Gypsy that she apply for a habitat house or some sort of government funded house. And I didn't even believe it, but apparently Melissa Moore suggested all this crap to them early on. Like, I don't begrudge this kind of stuff to anybody, but I do to a murderer. My God. Also, I remember Christy and all of them saying over and over and over, and we couldn't figure out why they kept, anytime anyone would mention Gypsy getting a job, they'd be like, well, it's not like she can just go work at Walmart. And everyone's like, what is their deal with her working at Walmart? Well, it's probably because Melissa Moore suggested it, and I got stuck in Gypsy's head. But yeah, Melissa was definitely trying to direct her to do things in the show that people would approve of, and Gypsy imploded all of those friends. Oh, listen here. Inbound from Melissa. On your canteen, I'd make these changes. 1. Change RC Cola to diet. 2. Change sugar cubes to an artificial sweetener if they have one for your coffee. 3. Stop making your meals. Instead, go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the cafeteria. 4. Take your vitamins every day. 5. On your shopping list for snacks, I'd keep only the popcorn because it has fiber, the peanut butter, the pickles, long grain rice, and chicken. I pick one, splurge is my max for the week, either 2 Twix bars or 1 pint of ice cream. I'd recommend not eating them first thing in the morning as it will spike your blood sugar for the day. I'd go to cafeteria for all meals, follow this set of rules, protein, fruit, veggie. These are always your yes to eat. Heavy limit these. No white bread, no milk because it has a lot of sugar, and no beverage unless sugar free. No jello unless sugar free. Sugar equals insulin. Insulin turns calories into stored fat. Sugar is the white flour of course, regular sugar. And she gives her an example breakfast and lunch. She says, the reason why I go to the cafeteria is that the meals offer fruit and veggie and protein sources that are portion controlled for you and offer more than your canteen food. You may crave sugar or get headaches since you've had so much of it, but you'll have more energy once your body. And then it cuts off there. Oh, Jip must have been sugaring it up in prison. Well, we could tell that. Outbound from Gypsy. I'm watching this CNN documentary about Britney Spears and the conservatorship she is under, and I feel so much sympathy for her because I know what it is like to be controlled. And when Britney talks about it, I feel her emotions because I felt that helpless feeling of being controlled and having a parent have paperwork saying that parent has every right to control your life and you can't do a damn thing about it because everyone deems and sees you as mentally unstable or incompetent. It makes me so sad for her. Oh, well, what's different about that is that, people went to the house to check on Gypsy when it was reported that this stuff wasn't real, and she acted in a way to make them think she was mentally incompetent. Friends, where the police and DFS went out there. Outbound from Gypsy. I forgot if it was today or tomorrow I needed to call. LOL, my mind was everywhere when I got out of the hole. Outbound from Gypsy. So, my current beliefs are centered around nature, karma, and willpower. I came by paganism, Wicca, by means of an old roommate and friend of mine. She introduced me to it, and I felt it was right for me. I wanted a nature based religion that believes in karma, good energy, and bad energy. I feel your fate is in your hands rather than my previous Christian belief that your life has been written by God already. I have the belief that if you don't like your fate, then change it because life is made of choices. Some would say I'm fated to turn out like my mother because of her life choices affected how I was raised. I say I make my own fate and change that because it is in my hands and power to do so. That isn't to say I don't believe in God. I do believe there is a God. I just also believe in self willpower to steer your life in the direction you want to go. I started learning about Wicca in late December 2020. I attended Wicca service on Mondays. How I practice my religious belief by allowing myself to let go of bad energy and allowing myself to give out positive energy towards others to introduce good karma to me. I often meditate and read tarot cards to guide my day and pull revelations about my life. No, I've never cursed anyone. I would never do that to someone. Yes, I have attempted a love spell. It was in 2013. I created a spell to bind Blink and I together as lovers so he would never leave me in an attempt to cancel out my mother's curse on me. I asked Blink to send me a lock of his hair and he did. I took a strand of his hair and I a short strand of mine when my mother cut my hair routinely, and I twisted the two together and enclosed it in a photo of me and a photo of him and wrapped it in red yarn. The willpower of the spell was broken when I wrote to Blink after he was sentenced and wrote wanting to get back together. I rejected him and with closure the spell ended and he was free to have new relationships. Curses and spells are like wishes or a prayer for something to happen. It is called manifestation, and the karma you put in is how powerful it can be. Okay, I'm curious if we're going to get a reply from Melissa Moore here because by the time her book came out, she was saying that she had switched up and was Christian again. I'm guessing Melissa probably told her it's not a good look as a murderer to say that, she doesn't believe in fate because she wants to make her own fate and take change into her own hands. Well, yeah, she definitely changed things. Also, it sounds like she actually believes in all of her mom's spells and her own. What do y'all think, friends? Oh, so funny. I guess she's talking about Ryan here. The top part's cut off, but it says, he is my best friend besides blank. But we also have always been flirty with each other and have great chemistry. I am just feeling things out without pressure. On a positive note, Blank lives in Lake Charles, Louisiana, 3 hours from Cutoff, where I will be living. Smile. Outbound from Gypsy. 9 in the morning and 9 at night was med time. I was on a med that had a purple tint to it and made me sleepy. The medicine I was allergic to had looked and smelled syrupy like pancake syrup. That's probably why I hate a lot of syrup on my pancakes today. Tongue feast. I wonder what she's talking about that she was allergic to. Inbound from Melissa. This is really good insight. Very helpful. Please walk me through normal fears she had and how she operated. Did she always answer the door? At home, did you ever run or walk around the house? Tell me about her shoplifting and what she would steal. Outbound from Gypsy. No, she rarely answered the door unless it was expected company. She would let the person knock and knock and pretend not to be there, even though her van was parked in the driveway. Sometimes she would drive the van to another spot to appear like we weren't home. Our house looked like a hoarder house all the time unless she knew company was coming over. Her fears ranged from lizards as a basic normal fear to abnormal fears, like me being in my room for too long. A few times she caught me on my computer while I was in my room, so after catching me talking to people on Facebook on the computer, she didn't trust me enough to spend any time in my room. By 2015, I was limited to changing clothes in my room, and that's it. She would time how long it would take to change clothes and get up off her bed to check what I was doing if I took a little too long in my room. She placed a reverse lock on my door, so it had a lock on the outside of the door, and I would have to ask her to unlock it so I could get dressed in my room. No, I didn't walk or run around the house if she was home, but when she wasn't home, I would walk and dance too. We had a CD player, and I would listen to music that was forbidden, like Katy Perry, and dance. She didn't let me listen to pop artists because she said that I was too little for adult content in the lyrics. I was 22 years old. As for shoplifting, we would go to Sam's Club or Walmart, and she would put me in the basket cart and she told me to slip things under my dress and sit on them. I did, and we would steal so much stuff like DVDs, clothes, food, hygiene products. She sometimes would have me steal DVDs and she would go resell them at the local video buy sell trade shop. Okay, on the room thing, Gypsy says a few times she caught me on my computer while I was in my room. So after catching me talking to people on Facebook on the computer, she didn't trust me enough to spend any time in my own room. Friends, she is talking about Dee Dee catching her talking sexually when she was 18 to a 50-year-old man in Springfield and seeing their Facebook messages and realizing Gypsy had left the house and actually went to meet him. Then we have outbound from Gypsy. She says, by the way, she never shoplifted alone. She needed me to be the one to use my wheelchair as a mean to hide things. So, with that in mind, friends, that takes us back to Gypsy's post today. She showed that she found the prescription pad that Christy alleged she found in their house and she thought Dee Dee stole it. And Gypsy just told us here that her mom didn't steal things without Gypsy doing it for her. What do y'all think, friends? Okay, outbound from Gypsy. I'm going to be writing you things I remember because lately my memories are clear as day. So they may be random emails, but I'm writing what I can to give you as it comes. When my mother and I were living in the Slidell housing complex in 2004, 2005, my mom had a neighbor she would sell her prescription medicine to for extra money. She started selling her weight loss pills, but then started selling her pain pills and Xanax. This neighbor told other people in the complex, so she had more than one buyer. In 2015, my mother stole money from our neighbor, Debbie Akers, after Debbie trusted my mom to put the money Debbie made after doing an experimental trial for one of those companies that pay you to be a volunteer for a new drug or product. Debbie knew my mom had a safe, so Debbie asked mom to put 2K in the safe for her. Mom agreed, but she stole a few hundred from the money. When Debbie realized the money was missing, mom played it off like it must have been Debbie's disturbed older son. Okay, what's interesting about that, we've read this email before, I've talked about it several times, but I just remembered when she talked about the Debbie Akers lady, pretty sure Gypsy mentioned Debbie Akers in her Facebook messages to Aaliyah and was talking about just shit on her in 2014. Hey friends, I was able to find the screenshot between Gypsy and Aaliyah in Into the Weeds podcast Google Drive, and it says Debbie and Paul Akers, the family that lived in the big yellow house with lots of kids. Well, Debbie and Paul are divorced now. All their daughters got pregnant at like 16 and moved out. The Neff boys still live there. Anthony Neff went into the military. He also got married. David Neff, his younger brother, is sleeping with Debbie Akers. She's like 45 and he's like 18 or 19. Creepy. And as for mom and sister, I don't. And then it cuts off. I agree with Gypsy that that is creepy, but what's odd is that she's showing awareness that that is creepy when we know that she was sneaking out to meet a 50-year-old creeper man. For those who haven't seen all the email videos, she told Melissa Moore she met a 50-year-old man in Springfield. She said that he was 50 and that her real age was 18 whenever it happened and that she left the house to meet him, and Dee Dee found out and got mad. Now, even though 18 is legal age of consent, I feel like any mother would get mad if their child of 18 snuck off, or, legal adult of 18 snuck off to meet a 50-year-old man. What do y'all think, friends? Outbound from Gypsy. I just got the questions from blank. No, my father and I never took a paternity test as it was never needed or asked for. No, no one has investigated me for the fraud because it was clear in the paperwork that it was always my mother who filled out the paperwork for everything. Outbound from Gypsy. I wasn't able to call past 9 because they closed the day room early. Did you want me to call tomorrow to do one more recording? Outbound from Gypsy. I'm watching Accused, Guilty or Innocent on A&E about a mother accused of MBP, and it's crazy to me how serious they take it, and yet no one did anything for me. I'm starting to see just how much I slipped through the cracks. Not like I didn't already know, but it is weird. I find it mind-boggling how much trouble she could have been in. To me, she was the only mother like that, and she got away with it until she died. How did the doctors not see it? Sorry, I'm just thinking is all. My personal opinion is Gypsy's confused because her situation isn't what she claims it is, but whatever. Outbound from or inbound to Gypsy. From Melissa. Good news. The sizzle is done. Now I'm waiting for them to schedule pitch meetings after Labor Day weekend. More good news. Random House wants to see the book proposal after I shared the sizzle reel with my editor there. So Friday, Blink and I, with my agent, will meet to go over the proposal and submit ASAP. But I told the editor she'll for sure see it after we secured a network for the doc series. But I know she is very serious about your book, and by the end of next month, I'm sure you'll have a book deal. I'm going to take care of my mom's probate this weekend, so I'll be out of town, but I hope to resume our meetings in September for the book. Outbound from Gypsy. That is great news. Just let me know when you need me to call ya. Smile. Oh, did you see the new In Touch article Blink did? It was read to me, and that whole article is BS. I had only one relationship after Blink, and she's saying I date multiple men. Blink is furious about it. He texted Blink wanting her to contact In Touch to tell that journalist to not take any interviews from her again. Blink refused. I can understand how Blink would be pissed. She is slandering him. He never used me for money. In fact, he would send me $300 a month for 2 years and never did an interview with anyone. So her claims are only her opinion of Blink and the relationship. She never liked him because he called her out as a con artist. She's had a vendetta ever since. My point is, I'm a grown adult. Even if I was having multiple men at my side, who cares? I still haven't had a real date in my whole life. So if her whole goal is to make me look like a hoochie or unstable, it won't work because people who know me know that Blink broke my heart enough to where I am still not yet healed from that breakup. Nothing she said added up because in late August 2019, I did that News interview talking about how, yes, me and Blink were having issues due to massive media attention, but we were strong in our relationship. So the claim in this new article that I dumped him in August didn't make sense. October 2nd was the actual date of our split. Anyway, it's irritating that she claims to be a family friend when we all have broken ties with her, yet the media don't know. Gypsy's worried that Melissa's gonna think she's a hoochie. Well, I wonder if Melissa's listened to these emails. She was definitely a hoochie, friends. I don't mind ladies being a hoochie if they want to feel like it, as long as they're not murderers. Don't be a mommy murderer, and then nobody cares if you're a hoochie. Do it to it. Outbound from Gypsy. I had remembered a faded memory from when I was very little, maybe 5. Mom had a friend named Mark. He liked her and he fixed a room at his place for her and I. I didn't like him, so I spit on him. I only wanted my dad and mom to get back together, and I was not happy with any guy that liked her otherwise. I sometimes feel like I deserve what happened because I guess if I wasn't happy with her being with another man and dad moved on with Blank, then she felt like I was stopping her from having a life with anyone else, so her focus was on me. My mom did love another man besides my dad. His name was Blank. He's married now, but she loved him. Interesting. I always wonder about that second dude every time I read that email. But yeah, Jip, you murdered your mom for being over focused on you after you ran off all of her men. Outbound from Gypsy. I wanted to write down anything I can remember about anything. And I remember my mother disabled the doorbell on our Habitat house after the people from DFS came to the house. She said the sound was giving her anxiety. That is the end, friends. Quite a few little nuggets of hilarity in there. But I'm gonna stop and edit here. I got to see some of the deer. I will show you here. I put the whole full thing in a members only video, but we'll go out with a little deer palette cleanser. I'm not sure if one of these younger ones was Feline or not, because I think she's probably lost her spots by now, but she hasn't been around. I guess she's got big enough to run with the herd. Anyway, friends, let me know what you think in the comments and have a good day.